in a decent program. In the Attitude Era, I heard Russo say he wrote for everyone, not just the main event guys, so they had something cool to do, like Val Venus or to the Godfather, to the Job Squad, etc. They all had good moments on TV. I really want that back on our screens again, where you might get two main event guys locked in a feud, then out of nowhere on the rampway, a mid-card guy comes out and gets involved just on a Raw night that gives them the shine, and interlinks more. How is it at this point, I've heard you mention this yourself, that each feud is almost produced like WWE Universe mode on a WWE game, where they're locked in brackets and nobody else can seem to go in them to month to month. So yeah, that's the point that Strong has put across here. Strong Doe's put across here. It's an interesting point, and you know, we've raised that before, Matt, about the way they do produce their television and the way they do the feuds now. You won't get, like, literally after a feud's done, it's very seldom that once guys are locked into something that you can't get other wrestlers for some reason can't go anywhere near them. They just sort of leave them alone now. Like, you know, nobody sort of... the only time I've seen it recently is Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn. That's the only one that sort of stood the test of time for a bit longer. And possibly this year, Roman Reigns and Strowman. But I think that's just down to them not having anybody else to work with. But other than that, Matt, does he raise a good point? I get what he's saying. The Attitude Era, you did see guys mix with anybody, but nowadays it does seem like once you're locked into something, you can't, until you get to the pay-per-view, that's it, sort of thing. You know, you've got to wait until the next month to change around again. It's kind of like musical chairs in a way.
Yeah, and I've got 100% agree with that. You know, the top guys, you know, people like Braun, you know, people like Seth and Dean and Roman, they won't even mention the lower card guys.
Yeah.
But when you think about someone like The Rock, and as great as he was on the mic, you know, he would mention them always.
Yeah.
Like,
well, you go back to Jericho. Jericho's debut.
It would get them over, even if he was just insulting them.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. It's a good point, and it's a good point to think about how they do produce. I don't know if that's because the amount of pay-per-views they do. I mean, I've heard some bit of news that they're trying to cut down on that next year, and the amount of pay-per-views they're going to put out, which is, I think, really positive, because at the moment I think they've got way too many anyway, and perhaps that's why we get so much of the same, and you have to get to that payoff too many times. And I would like to see something where it just lasts a bit longer. I mean, for instance, Matt, if you know, especially when we've done our timelines, you know, guys back then, Matt, they were locked for a long time, you know, and they could change over to different guys. There wasn't this sort of like, you know, you have to just stay with him for the remainder. It was like, as far as the TV was, the way it was produced, it was a lot more open. And you're right, getting the rub off for guys like The Rock did used to happen. Even Stone Cold used to do it to guys. So even if it was just stunnering them in the ring, that guy got his moment, you know. And you know, it was big. And if you look at the way Mankind made his way up the card, it was exactly that. It was sort of getting in with these bigger guys. So it's a great point you put there. Thank you for emailing that in, Strong Doe. Okay, let's take a couple last questions here before we get to the end of this show. Thank you again for everybody that's emailed us in this evening or before. Question now from Raj. Hello. Just want to say, following your preview show, that Jinder is a big superstar in India, and we love him, but it's disappointing he has to be a bad guy. But I could take that much, really. What really is disrespectful is how they portray India as hating America all the time. Where sorry, I'm just trying to read this, doesn't think seriously. Where we actually rate Jinder between superstars like... Oh, sorry, this is his part of the question. Where would we rate, Matt, after that, Jinder amongst Kevin Owens and He's put not the Miz, but Mike Mizanin. Not heard that name for a while from him, but the Miz. So first of all, let's just pick up on his point. It's a good point, Matt. Jinder Mahal, massive. We know he's got huge numbers in India. Very big deal for WWE. I think that's why they've kept him on top. But is it just a cliche crap from WWE, that the same nonsense that we even got from Rusev a couple of years ago, where it's the typical foreign guy comes in, hates all Americans, and do you know what? It wouldn't have even surprised me if they tried to do it as Shinsuke Nakamura, quite frankly, the way they do it all the time. But does it in this day and age, Matt? Is it a little bit redundant now? Do they need to think up something new, or does this stuff legitimately work? Is there still enough heat? Because I'll be honest, from what I hear, he actually gets popped sometimes with the American fans, Jinder Mahal. So you've got to be careful, I suppose. What's your take on it, Matt?
So it's like they're always looking towards an end goal, and like we said before about the possible WrestleMania match between him and John Cena. That always works for John Cena. When they had that bloody awful flag match with John Cena versus Rusev, they did the same angle. They were like, oh, let's wave the American flag, and everyone would cheer for John Cena. And although, John Cena is a great patriot, and I do respect the stuff that he gives to his nation, it's just like, that's not the way you have to guarantee a cheer for John Cena. You shouldn't have to go down that route. And just the same way it is for Jinder. Like, you shouldn't just expect that you can build Jinder up as a bad guy and someone's disrespecting America just to guarantee that John Cena can swoop in as the hero and get a cheer. It's not really the correct way to be booking things. Everyone's just equal on this planet Earth. It doesn't mean that because you won from one country from another, you should be a bad guy. Not at all. But it's even been that way when you think about previous British people as well.
Yeah,
other than the British Bulldog, majority of the British people have been portrayed as bad guys.
Yeah. There's been loads of Regal and Barrett. God knows how many more. I've always had that English stigma kind of thing. There was the bad posh, the talking like what's his name from bloody Mary Poppins, big fan like that sort of accent even. So I think WWE do that a lot. I mean, even with the Japanese guys, they've done that with in the past. Think of what was his name, Kenzo Suzuki, when he come in. I mean, that was a ridiculous way of bringing him in, and they do that all the time. I mean, it's an old thing that used to work. I'm not saying it's never worked, but I think the days of that now have long gone. And I do think because the world's got a lot smaller in terms of you can literally go on and look anything up. We see each other's stuff. So I think nowadays, it's odd that they're doing it, especially with this PG kind of thing. It's fascinating that they're still going down that road, but we saw it. I mean, one of the ones you'll remember, Mohammed Hassan, Matt, when they done that whole thing. I mean, that was quite risque when they were pulling that one out. To be honest, I mean, that was kind of even more worse, I'd say, than this with the way they were going with him. And I believed he got death threats and all sorts of things. Like if you look at some of his shoot interviews. When he was with Davari. But at the same time, Khali, I mean, he ended up just being sort of a kind of gimmicky joke type thing, but he is huge in India. I mean, not just huge as in size, but he is like really, really popular. But even look at him when he first come in, totally the same. He had that the guy with him that would talk for him and all the rest of it, and he hated Americans and all the rest of it. So yeah, it's obviously a thing that WWE or Vince McMahon especially goes to. Hopefully, Triple H doesn't share that same thing, and we might get something a bit more unique happening. But thank you. Also, Raj, at the end of it's put, Matt, where do we rank Jinder Mahal in between? Where do we rank him with the likes of Kevin Owens and The Miz, Matt? Where would you put Jinder in amongst those?
It's so hard because I've seen so many years of Kevin Owens and Miz working at the top level, and I've got to give Jinder more time before I can put him up there with those guys, because the Miz's mic work is, it's above anyone else in WWE working right now.
Yeah.
And that alone just gives him pops for that. But his in-ring work is no joke as well. And Kevin Owens, just for a guy that size, working the style that he does, capable of pulling off any move, is incredible. I'm not disrespecting Jinder. I mean, I think he's a great worker and everything, but you're comparing him to two guys that are on the AAA level.
Yeah. Well, I mean, in terms of overall, I put Kevin Owens at the top, I feel, and then Miz, and then Jinder at the bottom. But if I was going to speak about it in terms of, staying at the top and having some star power, I think Jinder's got probably the best chance of all three. And it's odd to say that, but Miz has probably had his chance. I'm not sure he'll ever get that back, even though his work recently definitely warrants having a main event status in some ways. I mean, he could easily be the biggest heel on SmackDown, for instance, even on Raw. So he's definitely got that. But in terms of if you think Kevin Owens, he had his run. How many people, Matt, really are going to remember his run, considering how that ended with Goldberg? Not the greatest of runs. So I think Jinder's got a good chance, but it all depends, legacy, how it's all going to end. It's not so much a bad thing if you lose at a WrestleMania, but at least he gets to WrestleMania. Whereas Kevin Owens, he didn't even get to WrestleMania. He was fighting for the Intercontinental Belt come WrestleMania. It was almost as if everyone had forgot him. So I feel like if you're a heel, a bit like JBL, everybody remembers JBL's title run because he had it for such a long time and he took it into WrestleMania. Yes, he lost to John Cena. It's funny that we're going to talk about John Cena again. That was the first time John Cena won his belt. But still, getting all that way with all the feud, people remember WrestleManias a lot more than any other pay-per-view. So if Jinder gets over and he loses there, I think by that point, Jinder may become a big enough name to then go on without a belt. I also got a feeling that they're going to go really overboard on his entrance at WrestleMania. I think that's going to be one of the ones that you'll see some crazy entrance going on for him. So he could be, out of all three of them, the most sustainable main event guy if he plays his cover up, which is incredible considering this guy was a jobber. Only last year, Matt? I mean, what a turnaround, really. Never thought I'd see him back.
Imagine his legacy if he beats John Cena at WrestleMania.
Exactly. So yeah, you got to say, he's definitely there. It's odd how the WWE works, but right place, right time, I guess, for him at the moment. So yeah, thank you for your question, Raj. Keep them coming. Last question now. Then this is from Amy, and she's a Hardy Boys fan here, Matt. I love the Hardy Boys, but I feel like they're going to blow out of steam. Like you predicted would happen, like what happened to the Dudley Boys in their last run. I can't work out if WWE just maximises them at the start on money, on money and merchandise, and puts them over very strong, so that down the line, by the end of their contracts, fans get fed up with them and have nothing to offer away from WWE. I would love to see Jeff in a singles run again, chasing a title, and I would really like Broken Matt back. Looking forward to Bret's timeline. I am so listening to that to and from work tomorrow. Well, thank you, Amy, for that. But Matt Hardy Boys, we saw Matt Hardy recently, actually, at London. I did predict it. I mean, I don't want to say I know everything, but I did say that I felt like if it could go the way of the Dudleys, where they got an amazing pop when they first come back, and then WWE, they do a tremendous job at sort of burning them out almost. Like, you'll be sick to death of chanting delete because it's not going to happen, but we're going to keep teasing you. But it's not going to happen, and by the end of it, they'll just go and WWE will just release them. What is the thinking here with WWE, Matt, and the Hardys in general? Is there any way